Picture this for a second. The Wheel of Fortune stage is glowing like it always does. The audience is smiling, clapping, waiting for letters to spin and fortunes to change. But just a few feet off camera, something happens that almost no one was ready for. A grown man in full firefighter gear can't hold it together anymore. His hands are shaking, his eyes are wet, and standing right in front of him, quietly, without a script, without a spotlight, is Ryan Seacrest. Not the polished TV host voice you know. Not the red carpet smile. Just Ryan, lowering his voice, leaning in, and saying something so personal that it stopped everyone in that room cold. And when the clip finally hit the internet, people all asked the same question: how did a game show moment turn into one of the most emotional celebrity stories of the year? Because this wasn't supposed to be news. This wasn't supposed to go viral. But once you hear what that firefighter had just been through, and why Ryan Seacrest reacted the way he did, you start to realize this wasn't about Wheel of Fortune at all. It was about loss, survival, and a kind of comfort that only comes from someone who truly understands what it means to keep showing up when life keeps knocking you down. And before we get to that moment, you need to understand why this hit people so hard, especially Americans watching at home who grew up with Wheel of Fortune as background noise during dinner, as comfort TV after long days, as something familiar when everything else felt uncertain. Ryan Seacrest has been in our living rooms for more than 2 decades. Some of you first met him as that hyper-energetic radio kid who somehow landed American Idol and never let go. Others watched him grow into the face of live TV, hosting New Year's Eve while the rest of us counted down our hopes and regrets. He became the guy who always looked put together, always smiling, always moving to the next thing. And for a long time, people said he was too polished, too perfect, too corporate. But here's the part people forget. Ryan's entire rise came from pressure. From never slowing down. From knowing that if he ever stopped, someone else would take his place. He built a career on being reliable, steady, and emotionally neutral, even when his personal life was anything but. He lost his mother's health scare years ago that shook him deeply. He's spoken quietly about loneliness, about how success doesn't always mean connection. And when he stepped into the Wheel of Fortune role, replacing a legend like Pat Sajak, the internet didn't exactly welcome him with open arms. Some fans were furious. They said he didn't belong. They said Wheel of Fortune wasn't supposed to change. Reddit threads exploded with comments like, "This is the end of an era," and "Ryan will never understand what this show means to regular people." TikTok creators mocked his hosting style before he even spun the wheel. Twitter, or X, turned into a battleground of nostalgia versus progress. And Ryan knew all of it. He felt that pressure walking onto that stage every single day. Now let's talk about the firefighter. Because this story doesn't work unless you understand him too. He wasn't just a random guest. He was invited as part of a special segment honoring first responders. A man who had spent over 15 years running toward danger while others ran away. He had pulled people out of burning homes. He had seen things most of us couldn't imagine seeing once, let alone carrying forever. And just months before standing on that Wheel of Fortune stage, his life had cracked open in a way that no amount of training could prepare him for. A massive fire had ripped through his district. One of those fast-moving, unforgiving blazes that don't give you time to think. In that fire, he lost a fellow firefighter. Not just a coworker, but a brother. Someone he had trained with, laughed with, trusted with his life. And on top of that, his own home was damaged. His family displaced. His kids asking questions he didn't know how to answer. He kept working. Of course he did. Firefighters don't stop. They don't get breaks from grief. They show up, put the gear on, and keep going. But grief doesn't disappear just because you're strong. It waits. And sometimes it waits for the most unexpected moment to come rushing out. On the Wheel of Fortune stage, when Ryan Seacrest shook his hand, something about that normal, friendly gesture cracked the dam. The firefighter later said it was the first time in months someone had looked him in the eyes and asked, "How are you really doing?" Not as a hero, not as a symbol, as a human. And this is where the story takes its first turn. Ryan didn't rush him. He didn't joke it away. He didn't try to keep the show moving. The cameras were rolling, but Ryan's voice softened. He listened. And then he shared something he almost never talks about on air. He told the firefighter about a moment in his own life when he felt like he had to be strong for everyone else while falling apart inside. He told him that grief doesn't follow a schedule, and that showing up doesn't mean you're not hurting. People in the audience later said it felt like time slowed down. Like they were watching two men have a conversation that wasn't meant for television. And that's exactly why it exploded online. But here is the part that truly broke the internet. A crew member filmed the moment on a phone from backstage. Not the polished broadcast version. The raw one. You can see the firefighter wipe his face. You can see Ryan put a hand on his shoulder. And you can hear Ryan say, almost under his breath, "You don't have to carry it alone." When that clip hit TikTok, it crossed 1 million views in hours. Comments flooded in from firefighters, nurses, veterans, single parents, people saying, "I didn't know I needed to hear that." Twitter split into two camps overnight. One side said this proved Ryan Seacrest was the perfect choice for Wheel of Fortune. That he brought empathy the show had never shown before. The other side accused the moment of being staged, performative, too emotional for a game show. Reddit went even deeper. Long threads popped up analyzing Ryan's body language, the firefighter's story, the ethics of showing grief on television. Some users admitted they had judged Ryan unfairly. Others doubled down, saying Wheel of Fortune should be about escapism, not pain. And right in the middle of that chaos, the firefighter himself spoke out. He posted a simple message on Facebook that someone quickly shared everywhere. He said that moment wasn't planned. That he hadn't expected to talk about his loss. That Ryan didn't know his story before stepping on stage. And that the comfort he received in those few minutes meant more to him than winning any amount of money. Let me ask you something right now. When was the last time you saw a celebrity stop performing and just be present? When was the last time a TV moment felt real enough to make you uncomfortable in the best way? Because that's layer 2 of this story. It wasn't just about kindness. It was about timing. America is tired. People are grieving quietly. Fires, floods, layoffs, loss. And suddenly, on a show known for spinning wheels and buying vowels, someone acknowledged the pain without trying to fix it. And this is where the backlash got louder. Some longtime Wheel of Fortune fans said they didn't tune in to cry. They wanted comfort, not confrontation. TikTok videos popped up saying, "This isn't why I watch Wheel." Others responded with stitches saying, "Maybe this is exactly why we need moments like this." Ryan stayed silent. No tweets. No interviews. No PR cleanup. And that silence only made the story grow. Now here comes layer 3, and this is where it gets personal. Behind the scenes, sources said Ryan asked production not to cut the moment. He wanted it aired as it happened. No dramatic music. No voiceover. Just the truth. That decision mattered. Because in a world where everything is edited, filtered, and branded, leaving something messy feels risky. And this is where I want to pause for a second. If stories like this matter to you, if you care about the human side of celebrities that most channels skip over, make sure you're subscribed to Talent Zone updates and turn on notifications. Because stories like this don't always stay in the headlines long, but they say a lot about where culture is right now. Okay, back to the story. When the episode finally aired, ratings jumped. But more importantly, messages poured in. Fire departments across the country shared the clip internally. Spouses of first responders wrote about how seen they felt. Even people who never watched Wheel of Fortune before tuned in just to see that moment. Ryan eventually broke his silence in a small interview. He said he didn't plan to say anything profound. He just listened. And sometimes, listening is the most powerful thing you can do. But here's the 4th layer, and it's the one most people missed. That firefighter went back to his station the next day. Same gear. Same risks. But he said something had shifted. Not because a celebrity talked to him, but because someone acknowledged his pain without turning it into a headline. Ironically, the internet did turn it into one anyway. But for him, that moment stayed small and personal. And now, the final layer. The one that changed how people see Ryan Seacrest forever. A few weeks later, another firefighter reached out to Ryan privately. Then another. Then another. Ryan didn't post about it. He didn't announce it. But he started quietly supporting mental health initiatives for first responders, funding counseling sessions, visiting stations off camera, doing the kind of work that doesn't trend. When that information finally leaked, even some of his harshest critics went quiet. So here we are, a Wheel of Fortune episode that started like any other. A firefighter who thought he was just there to represent his department. A host who everyone thought was too polished to be real. And a moment that reminded millions of people that comfort doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Let me ask you one last question. Do you think this kind of vulnerability belongs on television? Or do you think moments like this should stay private? Because one thing is clear. This wasn't just a celebrity headline. It was a reminder that behind every uniform, every smile, every perfectly timed TV moment, there's a human being waiting for someone to say, "You don't have to carry it alone." And if that doesn't change the way you see Wheel of Fortune, or Ryan Seacrest, or even the people in your own life, then maybe the real wheel that turned that day wasn't on stage at all.